Okay, so the main differences between having the studio version, apart from price, is DaVinci Resolve, the free version, you can do Ultra HD or Ultra High Definition, which is 4K for broadcast. So some people say, oh yeah, Resolve free doesn't do 4K. Well, it does. It's just the 4K version for broadcast. So that's pretty amazing. For resolution-wise, for studio, it can go unlimited resolution, so greater than 8K. There's no one doing anything above that at the moment. But Blackmagic have got a 12K camera, so who knows? So that's the other advantage, is Blackmagic Design, who created DaVinci Resolve, also make it work with their cameras. So as they're pushing forward with the latest technology for their cameras, they're also pushing Resolve to match the technology that's capable on their cameras. Magic Mask is an AI tool that identifies people and objects in the software and can actually separate them from the background, but uses AI, and that's quite expensive. Clearly, you need a license for that, which is pretty cheap, considering that's a forever license. So that's not in the free version. So it's sort of like a very quick and easy version of rotoscope. Audio transcription, again, relies on AI. So audio transcription is in the studio version, but it's not in the free version. 3D camera tracking, so that's to do with stabilization, to do with special effects. So that's not in the free version. These are more advanced things in the studio. You can still access some of the plugins, the visual effects in Resolve, but they'll be watermarked, as in they won't have a watermark on them in the studio. And Dolby Atmos sound mixing you can do free, because normally you'd have to pay for a license to do that inside DaVinci Resolve Studio. So it's not an additional plugin, it's actually incorporated into DaVinci Resolve. So as you can see, the difference between the free version and the studio version features that more high-end professionals would need, and hence they can afford £270 to buy it. So the other question that likely is to come up is, and this can happen with some other software, where, okay, well, I did stuff in the free version, but I can't move it across to the professional version. And that's not true with Resolve. So you can start with the free version, use it, and then when you pay for the studio version, all your free projects and all your free video edits will open up completely intact. You don't have to convert it across or worry about losing your work. And those studio FX that have watermarks on, it will just remove the watermarks. Again, also, if you decide not to have studio and you want to open up a studio project in the free version, it goes both ways. Okay, so it's not like it's limited to one or the other. Both versions will read each other's files. The main difference is the watermark, or you won't see some of those other features. But if you have created it already with those things, they'll still be in there. Okay, just you won't be able to edit. So if you use Magic Mask, you won't be able to edit it in the free version. So that's an overview of DaVinci Resolve. One of the most popular questions I get before I even start teaching the certification as a Blackmagic design training partner is, where do I download it from? So remember, we said that you can download a PC version, an Apple version, and a Linux version. So all three of those are available on Blackmagic Design's website. The second option, if you have an Apple computer. One of the advantages of the Apple Store, well, it will automatically update to the latest version. So that's handy. Though it has to wait until Blackmagic Design have updated it first on their website, and also it goes through extra security checks with Apple. So it might be like 2 days out of date of the updates on Blackmagic. So you might have to wait 2 days to get the latest version. So that's a slight disadvantage. So usually I'll download the full version from Blackmagic's website. Maybe it's the next day or 2 days later, then the one I have through my Apple account will update as well to those new features. The disadvantage of the Apple one is because of, this is not to do with Blackmagic. So there's all sorts of forums out there. They're going, oh, why did Blackmagic limit it for Apple? It's not to do with them. It's to do with Apple, because if you have apps on that Apple Store, it has to go through certain protocols that Apple have put in place around security. So it does mean that you're going to be limited to the different third-party plugins that you want to install into Resolve. Whereas if you go for the full version of DaVinci Resolve from Blackmagic Design's website, then you can install any plugins that you want, but you just have to check the source of where you get those from. And then the other one's about APIs, but that's more a coding thing, and that's more advanced. So I'll just go to my app store just to show you the difference. I've already installed it, so I could just click open and it would open it. And you can see the Apple Store version of DaVinci Resolve has got a white border around it, and there's ratings reviews. If you've got a computer, you need it to have at least 4 gig, if not more, because you need a bit more space when you're installing, on your hard drive available to install either app. And you can just search for DaVinci Resolve on the top left-hand side, and it should come up. So we just search for DaVinci Resolve, and there we are. We've got all the results for DaVinci Resolve. So it's slightly pricier on our Apple Store for the studio version. So it's $270 on Blackmagic's website, whereas it's just under $300 on the Apple Store for the full studio version. There's DaVinci Resolve Studio. I can open that up. And if I want to purchase it, which I'm not going to through Apple, I can just click it on there. So that's the Apple Store version. The Blackmagic Design website, so let's go there. Now, I have put the link in the description on YouTube, and if you want to follow along, do so here. When you first come to this website, it starts with an introduction around DaVinci Resolve. You can see it's being used in Marvel films. It's got all the different names of the films down there. And that's the other question I often get asked, particularly from content makers, people doing social media, beginners into the film world. They say it must be rubbish because it's free. Film industry doesn't use it. Don't know where they get that whole concept from, because they've never heard of it before. So essentially, it's top-end software that's become free. It used to cost 10 grand to get access to DaVinci Resolve in the early days. Now they've got a version that's free. This is funny, isn't it? When you start giving away stuff for free, people with the psychology of saying, it must be bad quality because it's free. So it's because of their generosity that they want to encourage new people into the industry who haven't got the money to start out using DaVinci Resolve. So learn your skills on the free software on professional film industry stuff. Unfortunately, sometimes they have like £1,000 or £10,000 subscription for the year. It's prohibitively expensive if you want to learn those skills to get into the industry. And that's also why I love DaVinci Resolve, because it's professional quality, it's very powerful and yet free. And I used to run programs for young people to get into the industry, and that's why I chose DaVinci Resolve as a starting point. Okay, so here you'll have an overview of what Resolve can do. The other thing that's unique about Resolve, it's 5 pieces of software in one, because I'm including the media management aspect. So you can edit, you can color, you can do audio, and you can do visual effects. And these are essentially 5 different pieces of software, but inside the one thing. They're not plugins. When people talk about other software, it's like, it does color, it does audio, and you go, yeah, but that's a plugin. That's not a full-featured range. And I'll do more videos on that later. So this is also primarily why Resolve is one of the main color grading software tools in the film industry. I have come across producers and directors who tell me they've been using Fusion, or people working in post using Fusion. So we'll cover all the things that every time you come to this page, the things that are new. Multi-user collaboration, meaning that you can work in Resolve and somebody else can access the same file, and you can work together across the world, all working on the same project together. You don't have to finish your bit and then send it off to someone. You can actually work on it together, which speeds up the post. That used to be only for the studio version, and recently they made that, since lockdown, part of the free version as well, using Blackmagic Cloud. So that's pretty amazing. I might do a session on that in the future as well. So these are the main pages in Resolve, and this is the huge difference. Each of these is essentially a different piece of software, but you just click on the page and it'll take you to it, rather than you having to export out, like say, for example, Adobe Premiere will have After Effects, but you still have to link it through to After Effects, and you're going into a different piece of software. And even then there can be issues with that. Never had any crashes with going from one page to the other. It's very bulletproof. So we got the edit page where you can edit. The cut page, which is what my book's about, is the sort of fast workflow and very social media orientated workflow. So it's another way to edit, basically. So the edit page is more advanced editing, whereas if you want to do something a bit quicker, use the cut page. Color page, which we've already spoken about. Fusion, which is this 3D animation composite tool. It's not layer-based like After Effects, but you can actually do 3D animations in there as well. And Fairlight, which is the audio. And then finally, Resolve works with more file types and delivery formats than some of the other post-production software that's available. And it includes over 100 GPU accelerated video and film effects. So there's a lot of plugins already included for free in Resolve. And plus you can download independent third-party plugins as well that work in Resolve. It does have an AI neural engine. I'm not a huge fan of AI, particularly if it's copying other people's work and then profiting off other creators' work. And I also believe humans have a better eye for things because AI is just an average engine, so it just takes averages and churns that out. One of the good things about Blackmagic Design is they don't copy. They don't take your images and then say, we're going to feed it to everyone else, like some other software does in their user agreement. So if you upload stuff into other software's cloud systems, it's in their user agreement that they can use it to train their AI. And you don't really want that because then other people will be copying your style. Blackmagic AI, which has been around a lot longer than this whole generative AI, is assistive. It's trained on their own independently created models. So it's what you call a closed model. And when it works on your stuff, there are some advanced options where you can feed a model into it, but it doesn't go onto the internet. Blackmagic don't own your content, so hence they can't use it to train their AI models. Whereas in some other software, which I won't mention, it's in the user agreement that they own your content. And that I think that's quite dangerous. So it works also with third-party plugins and storage systems, etc. So it supports different monitors. They don't make their money through the software, but they make their money through these extra editing things as you get more advanced. And I'm going to suggest if you go for the studio version, you see it's only £305 for the speed editor, which is this thing. Buy that because it includes the studio version for free. So you're essentially getting that for 30 quid, 35 quid. So that is better value to buy that, which includes the studio version for free. All of their cameras include the studio version of Resolve for free. All these control systems include the studio version for free. So they've got color panels. These two include the free version of the studio, and the micro doesn't. So I might do some tutorials on that. Do let me know in the chat if that's of interest to you. And then if you're going to advance more into audio engineering, you can buy their panels, which work with Resolve. Though, it's good to know that as you develop your skill set, that you're not limited, that you can actually grow to building a full, complete studio. And I think that's fantastic. You won't be able to do that with CapCut or other more basic software. So if your channel or your studio grows and you've got a real big following on YouTube, you might want to then expand your ability to do more professional stuff. So if you want the free one, just click the free download now button. And if you want to buy it, you've got this. So it says 225. Well, that's ex VAT. So if we click on this, you'll actually see the real price. So there are ex VAT is 225. VAT is £45. So it's 270. Though if you're VAT registered, it's essentially costing you £225. And then you can just click the number of copies that you want and then pay. If they've given you a promo code, you can always use that. So that's where I would go if I wanted the studio version. As you can see, that's cheaper than the Apple Studio version, which has its limitations as well. So you can click this button. You've also got down here, and these buttons take you to the same place. I think the main thing here is it actually tells you what version we've got. So 20 is the latest version. So we're going to click on the free download now button. And here you have it. You have options. Now, it doesn't say free on this page, so this might confuse some. Go for this one on the left. The studio version is the one you pay for. Okay, and you've got 4 operating system, because there's 2 versions of Windows. I have a Mac, so I'm going to click on Mac OS 10, but if you have a Linux computer, you can click on that. Windows, you can click on which version of Windows you've got. So here, this is the latest version, Resolve 20.3.2. If you want the free version, you need to register for the free version. These little asterisks mean these essential information they need from you. Put your name in here, like any other free software. You usually have to register to download it. So your name, your email, your phone number, your street, your city, your state, your zip code. And then you don't have to say this, how you use this product, which features you should add. Once you register, it will download it. So here, this is what it looks like once it's downloaded. So we can see this is the latest studio version because it says studio in there. The free one would look something like the same method to install. There's nothing different in the way you install it. And the studio is slightly larger. It's 7 gig, as you can see there. It says zip archive. And what happens is when you click it, once it's downloaded, it will expand that zip, and then on Apple and Windows will be similar. There will be like a zipped file or a compressed file, and expand it and then load up the installer. So we're going to look at that now. So the unzipped folder will look like this. So this DMG for Apple is your installer application, and then I've unzipped it. So I just have to click on that, and this is the installer. This is the free version. If this is the studio version of the installer, it just has the word studio here for studio, but it would look exactly the same. So what comes with installation is we have the Resolve manual, and that's no different between the studio and the free version. It's the same reference manual. And you can also access this manual from inside Resolve, so you don't have to drag the Studio Desktop to install it. So you can see it's 4,234 pages long. So even though I'm a Blackmagic design trainer, there are things that I don't know about Resolve, because that's a lot of information to absorb and understand. So I always like learning from other people as well. But the great thing with this, if you're stuck on something, you can always search for a word in there, because it's a PDF. That's the manual. If you've already got Resolve installed and you want to uninstall it, you can click uninstall. So we're about to install Resolve. It just gives you an overview of what Resolve includes. We click through, so we can just click save and read that later. The new things that are included within Resolve 20.3.2. And also another common question is, what sort of computer do I need, the minimum spec, to be able to run Resolve? So it's there in the installer, but I'll show you later where to find that on Blackmagic Design's own website as well before you install it. Okay, so we click continue. Here's the user agreement. Click save. You can read it later, or you can read it first before you agree. So if we go continue, you are agreeing to their user agreement. So at 6.22 gigabytes of space on your computer. So that's often because it has to use space to install. And then you would click install, which I'm not going to do because I'm going to write over, but I'm going to show you a trick on how to install another copy of Resolve before I click install. So we've also got custom options, which has got these tick boxes there. You've got Blackmagic Raw Player that enables you to view raw footage. These ones are skipped, but if you are going to do more advanced stuff with audio and FX stuff, you can install those. And I'm going to go into my applications and then show you a trick for how do I not overwrite what I've already got installed here. This is the Apple version, because we can see the white border, and this is the Studio version inside a folder, and it's got all the apps that come with the full version, all the extra stuff. When I'm writing my book, I had to have version 19 and 20, and sometimes I had 18, because when I'm training, people say, can you teach an older version? So this is what I do here, is just change the name of the software. And so this is 20, and then I'm just going to change the folder name. This is 20. So when I click install, it's going to create a new folder called DaVinci Resolve, and it won't write over my old one called 20. So it's looking for one that's already called DaVinci Resolve to update it. If I change the name of the folder, then it won't overwrite this. And so on my other laptop, I've got like DaVinci Resolve 19, DaVinci Resolve 18 for training purposes. The reason I changed this is, if I change this and I load up the icons down here, it will actually come up with the name there, so I know the difference between the two. Okay, so there's a tip for you. And that's also in a lot of the forums, is can you install more than one version of Resolve? Well, not officially. There's no button to click. You just rename your folders. And then we're going to click install. Put in your computer password and then click install software. And so it's just going to write these files to your computer. I'm just going to open it up to show you where you can get that user manual and what happens when you first open up Resolve. And interestingly, YouTube says is the most commonly asked question regarding DaVinci Resolve is how to install it. Hence why this video. Installation was successful. So we're going to close that. And I'm just going to go to where it's installed. Let's go back to applications. And we should see a second folder. And you can see here now, that wasn't there before, this new folder called DaVinci Resolve. So remember I renamed DaVinci Resolve and the DaVinci Resolve 20. I've now got one called DaVinci Resolve. So that's what I've just downloaded. One advantage is if you are installing this, it doesn't wipe all your old projects. So that's another big question people have is, if I'm installing an update, will it wipe all my old projects? When you open DaVinci Resolve for the first time after you've installed it, it comes with a quick setup screen, which will do a quick system check to see if your operating system and your graphics card work with it. And you can also set the resolution for your first project. Then you can tell Resolve where you want to store your project's media on your computer and select the keyboard layout. So basically, this is all the keyboard shortcuts. If you're coming across from Adobe Premiere or Avid or Pro Tools, you can reuse those shortcuts. When you first open up Resolve, it comes into this page. So this is the project manager, and let's open up a new project, this untitled project. This is new with 20. It actually asks you to name the project. Older versions, you just opened it up. You don't have to name it. You didn't have to say where to store it. So when you first open up a project in Resolve, traditionally Resolve wouldn't ask you that. And so some people got lost. Where's all my media to do with my project? I want to share it with other people. I'm going to call this test for live stream. And then this is your default media location. So this is where it's going to save all your media for your project. You can always change locations. If you click that button, you can actually say, okay, I want it stored here, etc. So I've got a folder I've created called DaVinci Resolve Media, and all the media associated with my different projects is there. So I'm not going to change that location. On an Apple, by default, it's in your movies section under your user account. Okay, so we're going to create a new project. Test for live stream. So we're going to click create, and it opens up Resolve, and here's the Resolve interface. We have a help section up the top. So if I click help, you can see there's my reference manual. And if I wanted to read the manual, that I can load it up there. We've also got a website where myself as a trainer and other certified DaVinci Resolve trainers are actually listed. So you can click that and it'll take you to that website. So here's the website that's just come up. It's got the American site, but you can click this and go to the UK site. So that comes up if you want certified training. And then coming back to help on Resolve. And then there's more advanced documentation that comes with Resolve if you're doing more advanced stuff. And by default, it opens in the cut page, so the easier to use page that's less cluttered. And we have a section here about Resolve, which will tell you what version you're on if you're wondering. If I'm training you, I'll say, what version are you on? You say, I don't know. Just go into the About page and it will tell you what build number it is as well. Here's an extra tip or hack for you if you want to download an older version of DaVinci Resolve. So as you can see, this is the latest version here on their website. If you go up here to the logo Blackmagic Design and click on that, this will take you to Blackmagic Design's website, where you'll see where you can buy other products that they sell, like their cameras, their control surfaces, etc., as well as DaVinci Resolve. And if you come up here to support, click on that, you'll see a section called DaVinci Resolve and Fusion Software. And if you click on that, it will filter the results here down to just the latest downloads and older downloads for DaVinci Resolve. So if I just sort of scroll down here, we can see, we can keep going all the way down. We are back past 20. There's version 19.1.3, etc. So keep scrolling. You also will see the latest manuals. So the latest version, as of this video, the software does not actually come with the latest manual. So the latest manual is 20.3, published on the 10th of February 2026. But for some reason, DaVinci Resolve 20.3.2 does not include the latest manual. It includes one dated 2025. So you want the latest user manual, you need to download it from this website. There's also a user forum that you can join up to if you need any support. You can email them or telephone them. Visit the forum, sign up, ask questions if you've got any further questions beyond the scope of this video. You can see there's a getting started section here. That was it. Okay, so hopefully that's comprehensive enough, you can always message me, because there's a chat section in YouTube around questions to do with Resolve. So I'll come up with my details about me. So there's all my socials. And we will now end the stream. Also, if you'd like to explore this topic further, you can purchase my book on amazon.com or .co.uk, the details of which are on the slide.